into these districts, be it inter-district choice, be it special needs choice, or whatever it is to meet the needs of our next generation of leaders. Another priority is going to be transportation funding. We have money. It's not a revenue problem we have, it's a spending problem. And we have some very creative people in the Texas House and that have come up with solutions for education funding without raising taxes and without raising fees. For instance, taking 2/3 of the motor vehicle sales tax and putting that towards transportation funding, right? And other bills that died in committee and never came to the floor, right? Well, transportation is a big issue here. We have 1,100 people a day moving to Texas. It's 27+ million people in our state. And so that's going to be a huge priority. And also, budget reform. This is kitchen table talk now. Amen. We have about $196 billion budget in Texas. I think it's the 9th largest in the world. And we have a system that's called a strategies-based budget, which is hard to understand for lay people and many people. There's only a few that understand how the budget works. And so there's a lack of transparency in it. There's dedicated funds that are used to certify the budget. But I think we need to move to what you call a program-based budget. You take program by program, and there's accountability. How much do you need? Where is it going? And do you give an account for it? See, everybody can understand that. We had 3 priorities last session: water, transportation, and education. And we only funded one of them out of our general revenue. Now, your family and your business, you set priorities, correct? And you pay for those priorities out of the money that you bring in and that you have in your checking, not out of your savings account. Well, the government should be held to the same standard because that's taxpayers' dollars.
Amen.
And part of our job is to be good financial stewards of taxpayer money. And when we have an influx of money, when we have money that is left over, I believe it needs to return to the taxpayer for tax relief for the individual and also for business.
Amen. Amen.
Well, we have this thing called the margins tax, which is the income tax on business that was created in 2006 because of a budgetary shortfall in Texas. And it was used to bring down, supposedly to bring down property tax and to finance education. Well, that tax has not been performing the way that they thought it would. Matter of fact, it's only bringing in about 1/3 of the money they thought it would, about $4 billion a year. And so businesses that I meet with, and even in our business that pay this margins tax, it's a very convoluted tax that's unnecessary. It's an income tax on business, basically, where you pay 1% of the revenue you make over $1 million, even if you're not profitable. Well, you have to hire a special CPA just to do the margins tax for your business. But what it does, long story short, is it takes money from businesses that they could be used to reinvest back into your company, to hire more people, to do research and development. And we did have about a $1.4 billion tax cut last session, HB 500, which I was a joint author on that bill. But we need to do more. People are asking when they come to Texas, what are y'all going to do with the margins tax? Because we want to bring our business there, but that tax is too much of a burden. Well, that type of legislation needs to come to the floor for the debate and for the dialogue and for the vote. But you need the right leadership to bring it. Because it's controversial. Because people say, well, what are you going to replace it with? Freedom.
Amen.
Freedom for businesses to grow. You don't replace a tax with a tax.
No.
Well, those type of bills and others have had a history of not coming to the floor. But I think it's time in Texas, when the people start calling for legislation, that we start bringing the legislation. I'm there, and the rest of us are there to work for you and to work with you. And so, running for speaker is part of that vision and part of that assignment and part of the reason. The speaker is very important because the speaker sets the chairs of the committee, and then they set the members of the committee, and then they set the legislative agenda, and the priorities for the session. And I believe that we need to have a bottoms-up approach instead of a top-down approach. We're about decentralizing the power of the speaker and empowering the members who hear from their constituents.
Yeah.
And then to bring these ideas and this type of legislation and others to the floor for the debate and for the vote. And I think for the posterity of our state, long after I sit down and others, that it will benefit us greatly. The question is, are we going to be courageous enough? Are we going to listen to the people and stand up and do the right thing? Because it's the right thing too.
That's it.
Well, that's why I'm here. And you know what? There's others that are standing with me.
Amen.
And I want you to pray for them because they're strong and they're courageous. And there's a lot of momentum picking up.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
And guess what? We're going to go to the floor on January the 13th. And we're going to take a vote. Because we haven't had a vote in the contested speakers race since the 1970s. And it's time.
Yeah.
It's time for liberation.
Yeah.
No more smoke and mirrors, but accountability. And then we go to work for Texas. Because as legislators, as representatives, you sent us down there to vote and to do the hard things. Well, voting on who the leader of the House is going to be is the most important vote that we can take.
That's right.
And so we're going to take the vote to the floor. So we can all know, okay, this is where you stand, and this is where you stand. And we're going to push our button, and we're going to vote. And then we're going to get to work for you, the people of Texas. And I'm encouraged, and I'm looking forward to it. Because I believe on that day, that there's going to be a change in Texas. You've already spoken in the statewide position.
Yeah.
Governor, new
Yeah.
governor, new lieutenant governor,
Yeah.
new AG,
Yeah.
new comptroller, new ag commissioner, new land commissioner.
That's
Well,
right.
we still got one more to go. That's why I need you to be engaged, and to be involved. Remember, complacency and status quo will rob us. The work is not done, and the work is not over. We have one more to go to complete the circle. And so I'm asking you to be involved, to get on the phone, to get on the email, to call your representative, to have the dialogue with them, to encourage them to step up and to be courageous and to bring about this transformation.
Yeah.
All eyes in America are on Texas.
Amen. That's right.
And as Texas goes, so goes America. We have an opportunity here to set the standard and
Yeah.
the precedent, if you will, if we're willing to do the right thing.
That's it.
You remember 10 years ago in Washington, we had the House, we had the Senate, and we had the presidency. And there was no monumental legislation to speak of. We have the same opportunity here in Texas right now.
Yes.
No more kicking the can down the road. It's time to make the hard decision to bring the right legislation and leave Texas better than it was than when we found it. My heart is for the next generation that comes behind.
That's it.
The question is, when I hand out this baton of leadership, what am I going to be handing it off to?
Yes. Amen.
What kind of Texas am I giving them? That's why we've been tens of thousands of miles around this state and visited with people just like you, because it's important. And every morning when I wake up, the Lord reminds me, 27.2 million people. That's what you're doing this for.
Amen.
And so this is not a burden to me. This is a privilege.
Amen.
And it's an assignment that I take very seriously and that I intend on finishing and winning.